Julian of Norwich, born in 1342, stands as one of medieval England's most compelling and enigmatic religious figures. Although historical documentation of her life is limited, Julian's work and her theological insights have had a profound and lasting impact on Christian mysticism and religious literature. Her major contribution to religious thought is encapsulated in Revelations of Divine Love, the earliest known book written by a woman in English. This text not only provides insights into her spiritual experiences but also showcases her progressive and compassionate interpretation of Christian doctrine. The backdrop of Julian's life was one of turmoil and upheaval. Born in the midst of the 14th century, she witnessed the Black Death that swept through Europe, decimating populations and leaving a trail of profound social and economic disruption. The plague, which struck Norwich in 1348 and again in later years, created a climate of fear and uncertainty. Julian's perspective on suffering and divine love must be understood within this context of existential angst and pervasive mortality. The events of her early life likely contributed to the themes of suffering, redemption, and the nature of God's love that permeate her theological work. Julian of Norwich was not her actual name. It was derived from the Church of St Julian in Norwich, where she lived as an anchoress. Anchoresses were religious recluses who chose a life of solitude and contemplation, often in cells attached to churches. This role provided Julian with the space to dedicate herself fully to prayer, meditation, and writing. While her exact social background remains unknown, her access to education suggests she may have come from a relatively well-off family or may have received sponsorship from the church or local nobility. At the core of Julian's spiritual legacy are the 16 revelations, or showings, she experienced during an illness in 1373 when she was around 30 years old. Believing herself to be near death, she had a series of mystical visions that profoundly influenced her understanding of God and faith. These visions, which she later documented in Revelations of Divine Love, provide a vivid portrayal of a God characterized not by wrath or judgment, but by overwhelming love and compassion. Her most famous assertion, "All shall be well, and all shall be well, and all manner of things shall be well," encapsulates her theology of hope and assurance in divine love, which stood in stark contrast to the prevailing religious attitudes of her time that often emphasized sin and divine punishment. Julian's writing challenged contemporary notions of a vengeful God. Instead, she presented an image of God as a nurturing, even maternal, figure, a radical and comforting vision in a period marked by hardship and fear. This idea of divine motherliness, alongside her emphasis on the essential goodness of creation and God's boundless love, provided a source of solace for those who suffered in the physical and spiritual tumult of the medieval period. Her reflections offered a counter-narrative to the more austere interpretations of Christianity that were dominant in the late Middle Ages. Despite living in a time when women's voices were marginalized, Julian's work has endured for centuries, influencing subsequent generations of mystics, theologians, and lay Christians alike. Her nuanced understanding of suffering, love, and divine purpose has continued to resonate, particularly in contemporary discussions of spirituality that emphasize compassion and inclusivity. Today, Julian of Norwich is celebrated not just for the rarity of her written contributions but for the depth and timelessness of her vision of a loving, nurturing, and ultimately redemptive God. Thanks for listening. Like, comment, and subscribe to Medieval Chronicles 1066 for more journeys back to the Middle Ages. Stay curious.